Hey everyone, Paula Aponte here with eXp Realty and Team BC in Florida. I wanted to do a quick video. It's been a while since I've gone on YouTube and added some content. I do apologize about that. It's been super busy. If you're a realtor, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Across the country, real estate is really booming. It's a heavy seller's market right now, and properties are going under contract and pending within hours of being listed. So if you want to know as a realtor how you can best have your best offer in there for your buyers, stay tuned. All right, everybody, welcome back to my channel. So, getting your best offer accepted. I recently just submitted a listing and it went under contract in 3 days. I had about 20 offers on this property and only one was able to get it, right? I had to make 19 dreaded phone calls to agents to let them know that their properties weren't accepted. And the really sad part was I had gotten phone calls from agents before they submitted their offers, sharing their stories of their buyers, you know, different situations. You know, this one's a widow and this one's a single mom with 2 kids, or this one's an elderly that really needs to find a place to live because their rental is over, you know, their lease is expired and the homeowner is selling and they can't buy that property, you know, just different situations. So, you know, your heart starts to break a little bit, at least mine does, you know, when you're hearing all these stories. You want to be able to say yes to everybody, but you can only say yes to one, right? So at the end of the day, what's really going to make your offer strong is what you put on that contract, okay? That's the most important thing. The other stuff I just mentioned to you, yes, that's all, you know, great relevant information, but really the seller, in most cases, they're looking for that highest and best offer. So, you know, there's this little thing called escalation clauses. Escalation clauses are fantastic, especially when you're in a multiple bid situation. If you're not familiar with what an escalation clause is, you definitely should be researching that a little bit as a real estate agent. But I'll give you just a quick summary. An escalation clause, think of it like eBay, where if you bid on something, you can say what your top amount is, and then somebody else goes in increments of, say, $20, right? And they're bidding for that item. Well, they constantly get outbid every time they raise up the amount. That's because you already have that top amount that you're willing to spend. So until they outbid you, you still have that item. Similar with that with the house, with the escalation clause, only instead of going back and forth, you just have a document that says, okay, here's the top amount my buyer is willing to pay, and we're going to go in about $500 or $1,000 increments, depending on, you know, the purchase price of the property. Escalation clauses, definitely a fantastic way to do things. Of course, just coming in with your highest and best is the cleanest and easiest way. I let buyers know when I have a new buyer, I have this conversation with them. So when it comes time for us to put an offer in, they're not shocked, okay? You know, you come across different types of buyers, and some buyers just want to get a good deal. You know, they feel like if the house is listed at, say, $215,000, they need to try to put an offer in of $210 because that's going to be the better deal. And one time I had a buyer and I had to really explain it to them. I said, listen, if this house was listed on the market for $205,000, but really the value and the comps in the area, comparables, right, are showing that this house is worth $215,000 all day long, are you still going to try to get this house for $195,000 or $200,000? Or do you want to try to get it for what the market value is, you know, because of the situation that we are in a seller's market? It's not always about getting a good deal, right? You have to, when you're a buyer in this market, it's about how much are you willing to spend on this house within reason, because obviously the home has to appraise. And that brings me to my next point. So with an appraisal, a buyer, especially if they are a conventional loan, they have some leeway, okay? A home is only worth how much a buyer is willing to pay. in this market, the buyer may need to be willing to come out of pocket a little bit more for their house so that they can win this house over other potential offers. So what that means is if you have a house that's listed for $210,000 and you know it's only going to appraise for say $215,000, well, as the buyer's agent, you're probably going to want to say, okay, Mr. Buyer, if you really want this house, my suggestion is we go in at about $220,000, but we write on the contract that you are willing to come out of pocket that $5,000 if it doesn't appraise, or up to $5,000, or whatever the magic number is. That right there helps your offer stand out amongst every other offer. In the 20 offers I had on my property, only one person did that, and that's the person that got the contract. So just take that food for thought. Next is your inspection period. There's no reason to drag out an inspection period. Inspections typically are pretty cut and dry, unless you're dealing with like a mobile home or a distressed property, you know, then we would be in a completely different situation. But in a regular residential sale, in this regular seller's market for families buying homes, try to reduce the amount of days that you have on your inspection period. What I do is I right away call one of my inspectors that I use often, and I send them a text and I say, hey, I'm submitting an offer. Are you able to do an inspection by such and such date? He usually responds back pretty quickly. I go ahead and I write it on the contract, and I know confidently that if I write a 3-day inspection period or a 5-day inspection period, my inspector is going to be able to do that. And I obviously have this conversation with my buyer to make sure they don't have an inspector that they want to use, because of course they're paying for it, right? It's their inspector. So confirm that with your buyer, confirm with your inspector. Everybody's good. You can write that on the inspection, on the contract, and boom, you have yourself a stronger offer. Another thing to do is to call the agent and find out when would be the best time the seller would prefer to close. If it's a home that the seller is living in the property, then they might not want a 3-week closing, even though you're a conventional loan and your lender says, yeah, we can close in 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks might scare them off. They might say, well, heck no, I've got to pack up my entire house. I'm not going to be ready to move in 3 weeks. So call the agent and find out the best closing date for the seller. And that's the date that you put on the contract. Let's see, any other tips that I can give you on writing a strong buyer's contract? Talked about the inspection, down payments. That's a good one. Okay, so in your down payment, you know, we typically have like your earnest money deposit, right? And of course you have your down payment. Well, your down payment's going to go hand in hand with the appraisal. If you put a bigger down payment, let's say if you're a conventional buyer and the minimum is 5% down, and you put a little bit more than 5% down, that's going to help with that appraisal situation. If your buyer is willing to take the home, even though it did not appraise, it will come in at value. But something else you can do is with your earnest money deposit, kind of raise that up a little bit. A lot of people just put $1,000 as a standard, I see, or 1% of the purchase price of the home. But if you go in like maybe 2% of the purchase price, or double that $1,000 to $2,000, that's definitely a stronger offer. I recently had a multiple offer situation where I was representing an investor, and we put in for our earnest money deposit $50,000 because he was buying it cash. We were going to close in 2 weeks. $50,000, boom, we got the offer, and we beat out like 26 offers. So that is a very valuable, because it shows that you have skin in the game, right? Or that your buyer has skin in the game and they definitely want that house. So that's my tips for writing a strong offer. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I was gone for so long. I will be back now a little bit more consistently, giving you at least 1 or 2 videos every month, and look forward to the next one, guys.